Hey guys, it's April 3rd if you're watching this in sequence, and today is 7th and 8th grade science, and we're going to cover crocodilians and finishing up reptiles with a short little thing on dinosaurs. And as soon as I started recording this film, guess what? My book's way over there, so excuse me. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. So the last time we were together on science, we finished up turtles, and so we're just going to go. Today I'm going to try to say a prayer quickly because I already feel like I'm getting kind of befuddled, and let's just get started into class. So Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for each day you've given us. Thank you for cloudy days as well as sunny days, and just thank you for your creation and everything you've given us. And we just want to take this moment and invite you with us, Holy Spirit, and give us this moment just to learn more about your creation through science. We love you. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, guys, so starting with crocodilians, if you'll turn in your book to page 309, or, I'm basically going over most of it. If you just want to, if you've got a headache, you can sit back and close your eyes, I suppose, but don't go to sleep. Try to listen. And remember what's happening. You have 2 quizzes that your parents picked up on April 1st that will be due on Monday. I believe all my 7th and 8th graders came and got all their stuff. So yeah. So on Monday, you should be turning in those 2 quizzes, as well as I gave you a review sheet coming up for your test. You really don't have anything next week except your test. So I will say, if you get a little backed up and just say you can't get everything through, then those 2 activity sheets that I gave you that was over snakes and over amphibians, that is perfectly acceptable if you want to turn that in with your test. You turn it in whenever you can, but if you've got something really crunched, I'm not sure what your other assignments are in the other classes, then feel free to say, okay, my activity sheets I can put off and I'll turn those in when I turn in my test. You're not going to get your test until next Monday. And today we'll do crocodilians, we're doing dinosaurs, we still have amphibians to go over. That may take us a couple of days next week. So next week I'll probably only do a few videos to give you a couple of days to just have time to complete your test and get that turned in. So now that we've got some housekeeping out of the way, I'm trying to adjust my reflections. Oh, I forgot, I turned those lights on over there. That's why I have so much more glare in my glasses. But we will go ahead and get started on some other stuff. That is really annoying me, so I'm going to turn off those lights. Hold on. And probably all over you're saying, it's like, where is this lady not doing iMovie or whatever? I am not going to get that far into editing, sorry, because this seems to be taking a long time, but that's just me. I'm kind of slow. So if we look at crocodiles, they are thick-skinned crocodilians, and crocodilians include crocodiles, alligators, caimans, gharials, I believe that's how it's spelled, gharials, and they all have an elongated, reinforced skull with massive, quick-closing jaws. Their eyes and ears and nostrils are on the top of their head, and that's because that allows them to breathe while they're still submerged underwater. Their ears are covered by flaps of skin, and that gives them, but they do have very good hearing. Unlike other reptiles, crocodilians care for their young during incubation and after birth, because most reptile mothers were not the best. So if you're going to hope for a reptile mother, it'd be some type of crocodilian, an alligator, a crocodile, something like that. The mother will protect the clutch of 20 to 80 eggs until she hatches, and she controls the temperature of the nest not by sitting on it like a chicken, but by adding layers of mud and leaves or taking them off. By changing the temperature, just very similar to what a turtle and what some snakes were, she can guarantee if they're male or if they're female. Eggs that are kept at a low temperature will produce females. Eggs kept at a high temperature will produce males, which is actually the opposite of what the turtles were. The mother will uncover the hatchlings when she hears them cry. Then she will carry them to the water, and she continues to protect them until they can protect themselves. And if you ever looked at little baby crocodiles, if you look that up sometime, they are actually kind of cute, just like baby lizards and stuff like that. It also talks about, you've got a little brain bite here, that a crocodile will actually swallow stones, and this kind of gives it, it acts like a ballast in its stomach to help it swim through the water. So if you ever wish to be a crocodile, I don't know if I would want to swallow stones. So we're going to start out with crocodiles. Crocodiles are the ones that are very swift and aggressive. They attack cattle, they attack deer, they attack people. The best known one is the one that we don't have, and that would be the Nile crocodile. You remember where the Nile is? The Nile is the longest river of the world. Africa, kind of river of the Nile, went through Egypt. You can probably get that from Bible stories. But the Nile crocodile can grow up to be 16 foot long. Crocodiles are distinguished from other crocodilians, but because if you want to know the difference between a crocodile and an alligator or a gharial, somewhere in your book, yeah, right there on page 310, it shows you the different shapes of their noses. Crocodiles have a very narrow nose. So most of the time, if you're in Florida and you're in places like that, you're not seeing a crocodile, you're seeing an alligator. They have a very broad, flat nose. So crocodiles have narrow snouts. They also have a tooth that is normally visible when their jaws are closed. That always reminds me, if you've ever watched it, I didn't like Peter Pan, but I did like the little crocodile. You could always see his little tooth hanging out in the Disney show, the cartoon Peter Pan. Now we're going to look at alligators and caimans. Alligators and caimans, compared to a crocodile, I'm not saying they're perfectly safe and you want to adopt one and hug it, but compared to a crocodile, they are less aggressive and they're less dangerous to humans. That doesn't mean if you go up and start trying to play with one or stick your hand into a crocodile or into an alligator's mouth that it's not going to chomp you. That just means they tend to not attack or be as aggressive as what a crocodile is. Alligators have a broad snout. You can't see their teeth from they're hidden inside their jaws. The American alligator will grow to 6 feet within about 12 years, and then it continues to grow larger after that. But if it's 6 foot, you can pretty much guess that's a 12-year-old alligator, almost a teenager. Caimans differ from alligators. One reason we don't just call them baby alligators, because that's kind of what you think, but they differ from alligators for scientists because they have bony protective plates on their abdomens as well as their backs. Then we have gharials, and they are found only in India and Burma, and they have weird-looking snouts compared to, they almost look like something like a dinosaur. Their distinctive snout is very long and narrow. Males, you can tell a male gharial from a female because a male has a knob on the end of their snout. They can grow up to 23 feet long. And gharials, though, are fish eaters, and they catch their prey not with the big chomp, but with a big sideways snap, something like that. I know, it's kind of hard to do this on there. Then the next reptile, crocodilian, actually, it's not even a crocodilian. It looks like, sounds like a lizard, but they classify it something totally different just because it's a little bit different. Now for us, we'd say a lizard is a lizard is a lizard. Kind of crocodiles kind of look like a lizard. But for a scientist, when they look at a tuatara, they would say this is a lizard-like reptile. And they're completely classified by by themselves. So it's a nocturnal, lizard-like reptile. The name tuatara means peaks on their back, and they do look like a perfect little baby dinosaur because they have little prominent spines on their back. The males have spines on their back. They have a long, slow life. So I don't think you can keep these as a pet, but if you did, it would be like having one of those macaw parrots or something like that as a pet. They are really long-lived. So they live for more than 60 years, and they take a very long time to mature. Tuatara will only produce every 2 years. Their eggs take about 14 months to hatch. That's a long time. Where are they found? We don't really have them. They're found on rocky islands off New Zealand. They share the burrows of seabirds. They can build their own, but why build when you can simply share with a seabird? Unlike many reptiles, tuataras, because if you notice where New Zealand's at, all right, here's Australia. You got New Zealand right there. I need a green screen, don't I? Be a weather girl. We're getting really down far into the Antarctic, getting close to Antarctica there. Tuataras are a lizard-like reptile, It's a lizard-like reptile that does well in colder environments, and that's why it's completely adapted to that environment. Rather, what we should say is that it's been completely created by God specifically for that environment. So they do well. They can forage. They keep foraging up to when it's like 50-some degrees outside. They eat insects. They eat snails. They like small animals. Like some other reptiles, a tuatara can regenerate its tail. So it's kind of, that's kind of weird that, but some reptiles can do that, like the skink lizard and those type of things. Here's what makes a tuatara extremely weird, and sometimes people think this is mystical, but they have what's called a parietal eye, and that's located at the top of their skull. The parietal eye has a lens, has a retina, and nerves, but it's not like they can see with it. It has all those things, but they can't necessarily say, oh, hey, Bob. Like if Bob's up here on a limb, they can't see him. They still need these eyes for that. The parietal eye is what scientists believe it's used for, is for light and dark, and it's kind of used as a solar radiation detector, basically saying, hey, tuatara dude, you're getting way too much sun, you're going to burn, you better shuffle along. Or because if you remember, the tuatara, right before we started reading this, is a nocturnal lizard. So that means it exists during, it lives primarily during the nighttime. So that might make it more important for them to have that little eye right there to figure out, sun's coming. So we're still on page 310. Okay, hold on. I need to text Brother Andy that I am lacking the internet. And you all are used to me texting him about things like this too. Okay, I do not have internet. Do not have internet in portable. Okay, so moving on. I keep touching my face. Sorry. You're going to have to say in comments, Miss Lamb, you touched your face this many times to help me. So the term dinosaur, going down to dinosaur on page 310. Okay, I just noticed here that gharials were used to be called gavials. That's what I remember, is the word gavial. But the gharial is preferred because it better represents the Hindi word from which the name comes from. Okay, so moving on to dinosaur. The term dinosaur was coined in 1842 by an English scientist named Sir Richard Owen. And by the way, I don't know if we... Oh, that's good to know. So I'm going to tell, thank you. I don't know if we've discussed this, but, Sir Isaac Newton and some of these other people would not have called themselves scientists. that was actually a term that didn't come until later in the 1800s or something. So even the term scientist is a fairly modern term. And when I say modern, Miss Lamb most of the time means within the past 200 years. But that's just how it be. So the term dinosaur was coined by English scientist Sir Richard Owen. Owen used that name, and the word dinosaur means terrible lizard, to describe the skeletons of these huge reptile-like animals. Now, no creationist is going to dispute the existence of a dinosaur, because you'd be stupid not to, because we dig them up all the time. And it's pretty obvious we had something big here. So, Sir Richard Owen was looking at big skeletons that they were getting in his home country, which was England. And although sometimes dinosaurs had body designs similar to reptiles, not all animals called dinosaurs were actually reptiles. And throughout history, there's been references to large monsters, to large dragons. Obviously, if you even look through the Bible, it talks about Job 40 and 41, talk about a behemoth, they talk about a leviathan, and these accounts in history and in Bible might give reference to a dinosaur. Now, if just to give a little bite on dinosaurs as people who believe in creation, but we also believe in dinosaurs, after the flood, and it could be something to do with the slight melting of the polar ice caps that happened during the flood. But we do realize that after that, even evolutionary scientists would say, hey, there was this thing called the Ice Age. Well, creationist scientists would say that too, and it occurred after the flood. And lots of things changed after the flood. And we believe it was in that time period when these large reptile-like creatures died down compared to the mammalian creatures that came about that had hair and some other things that they could adapt to this climate. And that only reptiles, these big, huge ones, could not really join. We had to be able to, don't know if that flashed up on you or not, but they had to get smaller in size in order to adapt and to be able to survive. So that's my speech on dinosaurs. Now let's go over to which big giants that we know exist. I'm not sure why they gave them all these cool different names, except it's just Latin and it was just really cool at the time period. So there's several different families of dinosaurs that lived on the land, and God's created them the same time He created all the other animals He was talking about. So the first ones we're going to talk about are theropods. They're carnivorous dinosaurs that walked around on two legs like a Tyrannosaurus rex. Of course, a T-Rex could weigh up to 5 tons, just looking at their jaws. I am going to say if you ever go to a natural history museum, guys, very rarely do you get a complete entire skeleton of one of these things. And your national history, the Natural History Museum that's in D.C. will very clearly show you this, and most natural history museums wherever else will too. They'll kind of show you, okay, we had this part of the skeleton, and then we had to kind of, in order to construct it, we had to kind of judge what some of these things look like. And they do a pretty good job at reconstruction of those, but as far as just finding a perfect skeleton, that normally doesn't happen. So, the T-Rex can have huge jaws with 6-inch teeth. We got that much from one. They're curved, serrated, strong design, mainly for one thing, tearing apart flesh. Fossil tracks reveal that theropods were probably swift runners. Some theropods were as big as a T-Rex, but then there was also some that were probably about the size of a chicken that they call the Compsognathus, which had small teeth, and then it used its little tail to kind of balance itself out. Then we have sauropods. They were large herbivores, like the Apatosaurus, the Brachiosaurus, and the Diplodocus. I think that's how I call it, Diplodocus. They had leaf-shaped teeth They walked on elephantine legs, or elephantine, however you pronounce that. Their neck was as long as their body. The sauropods went from 70 to 100 feet long, weighing up to 100 tons. Then you had ceratopsians, stegosaurs, ankylosaurs, and pachycephalosaurs. I probably murdered that one. Were all dinosaurs that had one thing in common. They had protective horns and had protective plates. Ceratopsians were dinosaurs that ranged from only 4 feet to 26 foot, like the Triceratops. Most had a bony frill that went around their heads, just like we've got some lizards. My son had a bearded dragon that had a bony frill that we've kind of looked at some of these other lizards. They also had various numbers of horns. Stegosaurs were plated dinosaurs with rows of triangular or diamond-shaped plates. And then we had ankylosaurs that looked like great horned lizards with bony plates in their eyelids, round bony clubs at the ends of their tails. And then we had the other ones that I just murdered, the pachycephalosaurs, which were up from 8 to 15 feet that long and had bony dome-shaped heads. The smallest member of that group would be the Stegosaurus. Some scientists believe that those plates and those bony frills on the dinosaurs helped control their body temperature by releasing heat. We know that elephants do that with flapping their ears, but in all honesty, that's a guesstimate. They're not really sure what happened. Then we have we have some aerial dinosaurs. The pterosaurs had a body design similar to a modern bat. Then we have the pteranodon, and that had wings up to 20 feet with a 3-foot long toothless beak. And then you have the Quetzalcoatlus that had a wingspan up to 39 feet. We also had some aquatic giants from that time. The plesiosaurs and the plesiosaurs were giant dinosaurs with paddle-shaped feet. These dinosaurs swam using strokes like sea turtles or more like a penguin rather than a fish. And you can just read all about what all they had. Then another extinct animal that looked really, really similar to an animal that still exists. It looks a whole lot like a dolphin, and we think it swam like a whole lot like a dolphin, was the Ichthyosaurus. Scientists know that they bore live young because some got very rapidly preserved in some mud, or some were preserved in the womb. And then we have some giant sea turtles, the Archaeolon, and long have also been discovered. So we're just going over all these different dinosaurs that have been confirmed that scientists have named. So where did they go? It's one of those things that it's almost, we don't know. Just like Deuteronomy 29:29 tells us all the time, there's some secret things that belong to the Lord. The things that's been revealed to us is enough for us to know to trust the Lord and to serve Him. So that was me going verbatim from my memory, not from the actual Bible. So don't quote me on that. But no one really knows what happened to the dinosaurs or what happened to some of these other animals that just went extinct. Animals that are large generally take a long time to mature and to reproduce, and that might make it more vulnerable to different things. Maybe the dinosaurs could not reproduce quickly enough once they begin to die off from either disease, or maybe if they're being hunted by man, or if the climate was just changing. That was another thing. Some scientists theorize that dinosaurs were forced into extinction not because these this little bitty man was attacking this monstrous dinosaur and bringing it down, but he was attacking the eggs. He was gathering the eggs or the young and maybe using them, or maybe other predators. Like I said, as creationists, most creationists think the climate change that occurred after the flood completely changed the climate to where dinosaurs just naturally were not able to adapt to that new climate, and they just slowly begin to die off. So that has gotten us through all the dinosaur section. We've finished 8.3. We are going to cover amphibians on April the 6th. And I think you do have, I think I maybe have even given you a quiz that was on 8.3 and 8.4. So I'll say the same thing with the quiz. If you think, I didn't really cover this, I kind of want to wait on Miss Lamb, that's perfectly fine. Because the amphibian section is probably going to take us both Monday as well as Tuesday. I am not going to produce a video next Wednesday or Thursday. I'm going to kind of give you those 2 days where all you have to do is work on your tests. Remember, your test you can use your test guide that I gave you if you have a hard time finding it in your book, and just do your best and do your make sure you stay well, still stay healthy, get plenty of sleep. So love you guys. Have a good day.